Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Charlene Aaron. New York City remains on high alert as the FBI and police investigate the deadliest terror incident to hit the city since September 11th attacks. Investigators say the suspect drove a Home Depot rental truck along a bike path in Lower Manhattan Tuesday afternoon, hitting pedestrians and crashing into a school bus. At least 8 people are dead and more than a dozen are injured. That suspect is hospitalized as well. Our Ephraim Graham traveled to the crime scene just blocks away from where the Twin Towers once stood to bring us this report.
We got multiple casualties. This is a mass casualty situation here.
Police say Sayfullah Saipov, an immigrant from Uzbekistan who came to the U.S. in 2010, rented a Home Depot truck not far from his home in Paterson, New Jersey, and then plowed it along a bike and pedestrian path in Lower Manhattan Tuesday afternoon, aiming to hit people and run them over. Eyewitnesses say they heard Saipov chanting Allahu Akbar as he tried to run away.
We know that this action was intended to break our spirit.
Police were able to stop the 29-year-old attacker as he exited the vehicle, having crashed into a school bus. Barely an hour into the deadly rampage, they also were able to declare it a terrorist attack.
In that spirit, the mayor and governor went ahead and joined thousands on the streets for the annual Halloween parade with added security. President Trump quickly tweeted condolences to the victims and praise for the first responders, also noting, "I have just ordered Homeland Security to step up our already extreme vetting program. Being politically correct is fine, but not for this."
A whole bunch of people came running past my way yelling, "He's got a gun, he's got a gun."
Federal agents and police are now asking witnesses to share any images they've captured, like this cell phone video showing Sayfullah Saipov limping after getting out of his truck, holding what turned out to be 2 fake guns. Guns this mother says he pointed at her daughter.
She just said, "I saw the man with the guns. He pointed the gun at me. I'm sorry. I have to go get my child."
Saipov is in custody, recovering at a New York City hospital, but investigators believe he planned to die. They recovered a note he left in that Home Depot truck, saying he carried out the attack on behalf of ISIS.
We have been tested before as a city very near the site of today's tragedy, and New Yorkers do not give in the face of these kinds of actions.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, New York.
Eric Rosales is CBN's national security correspondent, and he joins us now from Washington. Eric, what's the latest information on the attacker?
Well, as of right now, he is still hospitalized and no doubt undergoing a number of questioning from both the FBI and the CIA. They want to be able to find out if he was part of some organization that was something much bigger, if he had accomplices that actually were there in the attack as well, that maybe he just had taken off. They want to be able to find out exactly what his method of thinking is, his ideology, to find out if there were any more people that could possibly be part of this attack in New York.
Okay, well, where does the investigation go from here? What's next?
Well, the investigation goes from here is trying to find out exactly that. I mean, where he was from. I think the biggest thing is that we have to bring up that President Trump, you know, he wanted to prevent something like this from happening as previous administrations had this lottery system that just allowed people to be able to come in with a roll of the dice as compared to being able to do kind of what they do in Australia, things like that, where you actually come in as a result of whatever skills you have or what you can actually, education that you have, what you can bring to the country to make it better. And that's the most important thing, is that President Trump has really tried to do this, but it's been stopped by the court system.
Indeed. Well, we've seen these truck attacks in Germany and in France. What did the NYPD do to prepare for such attacks?
Well, they have an intricate system of camera system, somewhat like they have in London, where they have an entire unit that's just there watching these people. The biggest thing is they're going to try and find out what exactly organizations and people he hung out with, to be able to find out of any more people that may be involved in this situation. You know, he came from Uzbekistan in 2010, and Uzbekistan has a very large Muslim population. They also have the IMU, that's the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan. It was actually formed in 1990, and in 2015 is when Al-Qaeda actually took it over. And United Nations has said that even many of Al-Qaeda's top people were part of this organization of the IMU. So that is very important.
Important indeed. Thank you so much, Eric Rosales, for joining us today.
You got it.
There's new information out on the president's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, who is facing charges involving money laundering and other financial crimes. Federal prosecutors say Manafort was holding assets worth $25 million earlier this year, but the precise value has fluctuated, and they're still trying to quantify it. Manafort faces anywhere from 12 to 15 years in prison, and his business partner, Rick Gates, faces 10 to 12 years. Both men have pleaded not guilty. House Republicans are working overtime to draft that new tax bill that President Trump has been touting. They're set to roll it out Thursday, and some are pulling a few all-nighters to make that happen. The president is keeping up the pressure, meeting with business leaders Tuesday ahead of his trip to Asia. He promoted the plan and told leaders he needs them to help build momentum for it while he's away.
The economy is doing very well, but it can do much better. A lot of jobs are going to come from this, and a lot of companies are going to start pouring back into the United States. In fact, we're going to be announcing one big one sometime very shortly.
The president leaves Friday for 12 days and is set to visit Japan, South Korea, China, Vietnam, and the Philippines. The federal government now agrees that life begins at conception. The Department of Health and Human Services included the new stance in a 5-year draft strategic plan. The HHS plan states that it would protect Americans at every stage of life, beginning at conception. The language is different from the organization's Obama-era language, which did not include conception until natural death. The HHS plan is not yet final. Well, Australians are in the final days of a postal survey to redefine marriage in their country. So far, 75% have voted, and preliminary results show a majority approving legalized marriage between people of the same sex. The survey has drawn controversy across the country, but it has also stirred the church to rise and fight for the preservation of traditional marriage. Lucille Toulousan is in Australia and brings us this story.
Why can't I marry my goat?
Down a slippery slope is how this political party group describes Australia if voters approve same-sex marriage.
We're just repeating the slogans of the gay movement, that all love is equal, love is love. So if love's love, I want to marry my child.
The right should extend to gay marriage, so why shouldn't it extend to polygamous relationships? Why shouldn't it extend to bestiality? Where does it end?
Everybody should be free in 2017 to make their own choices and decide if they want to get married or if they don't want to get married, no matter what their sexuality is.
I think it's good that we redefine it. You know, different values are coming through, different minorities are starting to have a voice, and it's important that we recognise them as legitimate people with feelings, with rights.
In the past weeks, Australians were sent postal ballots where they can vote yes or no to the question, should the law be changed to allow same-sex couples to marry? If Australians approve the survey, the law will only be changed if Parliament acts on the advisory vote. Political analyst Bill Muhlenberg says, over the past 13 years, Parliament has tried to change the law 22 times. Each vote has failed.
A lot of people don't know just how serious this is. The so-called Safe Schools program, which is really a pro-homosexual program for our young children, all of this, it's a package deal. You get homosexual marriage and you'll get all these other bits thrown in.
City Councillor Rosalie Crestani says she was persecuted for raising concerns about promoting homosexuality in the community.
There seemed to be a favouring of the LGBTI agenda. So I was very concerned about that, but my colleagues didn't agree with me. If they did, they didn't support me publicly. In fact, they made it very clear that I should be taken off everything. And it is hard. You won't be free of persecution. You won't be free of criticism and mockery, but you will make a difference, absolutely.
These people are marching for marriage, and they are going around the city to express their sentiment that marriage should not be redefined. Their purpose is for the people to hear their voice, for them to rethink and vote no to same-sex marriage.
Everything changes when you change the definition of marriage. It's a whole complete change in your culture. It's a change to your children and how they all grow up. The words mother and father taken out of the vocabulary because it's seen as, discriminatory and bigoted.
Pastor Daniel Nalia calls the postal survey on same-sex marriage a blessing in disguise.
I've never seen the church in Australia being so active on any issue as in this one. Australia has proven that there are thousands of people who are standing up right now and saying, this is not right. We want marriage to be kept in between a man and a woman. When same-sex marriage bill came up, the Safe School program, which was hidden and undercover running through the classes, got all exposed. On our watch, we will not let the next generation slip away. We will stand and fight till the end.
While the yes vote is in the lead, Pastor Nalia and other Christians are encouraging remaining voters to reject same-sex marriage. And regardless of what happens, churches like Catch the Fire are committed to pray for God's plan to prevail in Australia. Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Sydney.
Coon, who traded a job on the oil pipelines for one inside the Texas prisons.
That's what we say in prison evangelism, changing hearts and closing prisons. So the return on investment is incredible.
See the lives of people behind bars next. The high numbers of people in prison have politicians, policymakers, and religious leaders rethinking criminal justice in America. It's a system that some argue relies too heavily on locking people up and not nearly enough on rehabilitating them. John Jessup introduces us to a Texas businessman on a twofold mission to save souls and close prisons.
It's line pipe for 36-inch line pipe.
David Howell knows a good investment when he sees one.
They're taking pipe all over the place.
At 14, he started working in the oil industry. Today, he makes a living buying old underground pipes and rehabilitating them, giving second life to what many might consider waste.
It is ultimate recycling to me, and it's like I said, it's just tubular steel that can be used and reused.
In a way, David's career has come full circle, much like his life.
If you can imagine a total self-centered life, me, that was me. And a lot of that centered around alcohol, sex, all the things, money, and just taking care of my own personal needs.
As a young husband and father, he wanted to abandon his destructive lifestyle. So he turned to Alcoholics Anonymous and soon after found himself in church.
I jumped into AA and became Mr. AA. And when I became a Christian, I said, this is going to be an all or nothing deal for me as well.
Now sober for more than 35 years, David's dedicated his new life to sharing his story with anyone who will listen.
I would find people outside of a meeting and we'd go to lunch or go to coffee, and I would write stick figures and show people the story of Jesus.
The AA crowd, being part of that, and that he used a lot there and kind of experimented there. I think that was sort of his testing ground.
Several years ago, he wrote a book called How to Be a Child of God, and that opened a new door.
Even though he is a gifted evangelist by gift, he never really had seen this coming. I never saw this coming.
David's success has served him well, but after 30 years in the industry, he's spending less time reclaiming old pipes on the oil field and spending more time on the mission field reclaiming souls for Christ.
In places like this, behind wire fencing, with armed guards and under constant surveillance, David Howell's book is making the biggest impact. CBN News obtained rare access to talk with prisoners about the value of David's 52-page how-to guide.
Since I read that book, I changed my life.
Karif Gilstrap anxiously awaits his release in September after serving a 2-year sentence for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
Karif, how else have you changed? Has there been a change in your personality and your behavior?
Yes, definitely. I've learned how to tame my tongue. I've been reading my Bible more, doing a lot of Bible study. So yes, definitely.
Do you think others have noticed the changes as well?
Yes. My sailor, he's been telling me.
What has he told you?
He was like, you he said, you going all holy on me. I was like, man, I'm trying to get right, man. When I get back out there, I can't be who I used to be.
Jackie Beaver's anger issues landed him in prison for more than 20 years, serving time for aggravated robbery and kidnapping. He wrote to David to tell him his book was amazing and opened his eyes to a lot he didn't know.
Like I'm a true believer that Jesus Christ died for my sins. And when I read that book, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like something took over me.
CBN News was there to record the moment both men personally got to thank the author. For David, the meeting only confirms the call to keep reaching out to the 2 million American men and women behind bars.
Here I am, 77, and I'm a roughneck from South Texas. And what do I know about writing a book about salvation? But I could identify with those kind of people. I've roughnecked with them, I've worked with them. For all the things that I did in all those years of that hellish living. He got caught and I didn't. The only difference is he's in prison and I'm not.
Prison volunteer Rick Pritchard hands out copies of How to Be a Child of God. He says it's colorful, easy to understand, and produces real change in a place of physical and often spiritual bondage.
They're free, and you can tell when they got Jackie, the smile on their faces, you know they're free inside.
David wants to get 600,000 copies of his book into America's largest state and federal prisons and county jails, all with the goal of helping men and women behind bars experience spiritual freedom.
And that's what we say in prison evangelism, changing hearts and closing prisons. So the return on investment is incredible.
Reporting for the East Ham unit in Lovelady, Texas, I'm John Jessup for CBN News.
And many people say one reason we need to reform our judicial system is simple. The U.S. puts more people in prison than any other country. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, these days, couples are spending nearly twice as much as they did on weddings 10 years ago. It is a trend that some money experts and even pastors find troubling. Heather Sells breaks down the reasons why an expensive wedding may not be the best way to start a marriage.
For most brides, it starts with this: thousands of pictures and ideas to help plan the perfect wedding.
It's definitely a lot of pressure.
Corey Bateman got married last summer and says she was well aware of the challenge in meeting expectations set by social media.
I think weddings are just a much bigger deal than they ever used to be. It's not as much as, oh, it's two people getting married. It's what kind of party are you going to throw?
And Bateman isn't alone in her feelings.
More than 1/3 of couples feel pressure from the media to have that perfect wedding. It may be why the average bride and groom spent $28,000 compared to just $16,000 10 years ago.
Or why they delay walking down the aisle.
I am seeing engagements being greatly prolonged. I'm seeing people searching for the perfect venue, for the perfect time of year, for the perfect colors.
Pastor Benjamin Verbachek has written about the pressures couples face to create what he calls the Pinterest dream wedding. It's a theme that other pastors have picked up on as well. The goal, help Christian couples refocus and think about the ultimate purpose of their wedding and marriage.
So culturally, I think right now we're at a place where our identity is not so much looking upward to God and who He says we are in the gospel, the good news that we're His sons and daughters in Christ, but rather who we posture ourselves as in social media.
And research helps back up the idea of a frugal wedding. Economists have found couples going the $20,000 or more route divorce more than those who spend less than $10,000. If you want to go big, social scientists recommend going with more family and friends, not necessarily more money. They believe it can increase your chance of a happy marriage. Sociologist Brad Wilcox calls it the big fat Greek wedding factor.
So having your wedding, in a relatively cheap venue, maybe a church hall, for instance, or something else, but with a lot of your friends and family members there, seems to be the formula when it comes to the ceremony itself for greater marital quality.
Nikki Crystal and her fiancé followed this so-called formula without knowing it existed.
I am one of 5. My mom is one of 6. Most of my family lives close by, and
So I grew up with just a lot of people around, and I couldn't imagine having something small.
Crystal, however, also faced a tight budget.
My parents helped a lot, and they helped where they could, but I also didn't want to be in debt after I got married.
So the couple cut corners. They picked a cheap venue, hired a photographer for just half a day, and bought wholesale flowers. That kind of thrifty thinking also inspired Casey Capra, who says her mom taught her about stewardship. Together, they made table centerpieces and other decorations.
There was a lot of satisfaction in looking back at things you had created and done and known that you hadn't even spent a lot of money on it.
For their large wedding, Corey Bateman and her fiancé used their network of friends and family to help keep costs down while creating memories. Thanks to volunteers, they didn't have to hire musicians, a florist, or a wedding planner.
Even after the whole day, I had people say to me, we really loved how your wedding was just so family oriented. I was like, well, what do you mean by that? I'm like, well, we just, everyone was involved. It just seemed like there were a lot of people that care about you guys, that helped, and that were having, just a great time and wanted to be a part.
That community support, says Wilcox, can extend beyond the wedding day and help the couple weather the seasons of life. In the meantime, Pastor Benjamin is committed to help steer couples away from the Pinterest perfect event.
I think they're relieved to have someone telling them, hey, you don't have to make it about these things. The value of your wedding is not on how much you spent on it or how many people post on Instagram during the reception. The value is that you love each other, that God loves you, and it was a Christian wedding.
Heather Sells, CBN News.
If you had 10 minutes alone with Donald Trump, what would you say? When TV star Phil Robertson was given that opportunity, he knew his exact message for the then presidential candidate.
Someone said, Phil, you got 10 minutes with Donald Trump. I said, 10 minutes. That's all I need. So I go in there, how you doing, Mr. Donald? How you doing? Pretty good. Good to see you. He said, I love your son, Willie. I said, Donald. I reached in my pocket. I had it written in diagram form. I said, whatever happens, don't miss this. And I held up a piece of paper, and diagrams showed that Jesus became flesh 2,000 years ago. I said, he died for Donald Trump's sins. I said, Donald, you do have sin.
To see more of that interview, check out CBN News' online show, Faith Nation. You'll find it at facebook.com/CBN News starting at 12:30 Eastern today.